General reaction on where the Maple Leafs go from here when it comes to Joseph Woll, the Hildeby situation. They're lucky to have depth, right?
Yeah, it's huge. It absolutely is. I mean, the fact that they're able to rely on Anthony Stolarz, a guy who held the fort for them last season, as I was trying to mention earlier. It's a good luxury to have, especially in these situations. And the fact that you've got to let Woll handle whatever personal matter it is. And I know you guys were touching on it. We don't have to speculate on what that is. Clearly, it's important enough for him to get away, and he's got to handle whatever he's handling. But the depth of the organization is going to kick in here. And once the season gets going, if Woll's not back, Stolarz is able to hold the fort down. And as you mentioned, they've got some depth pieces in net that can either step into a backup role, or if Hildeby or whomever has to take the reins for a game or two, they feel comfortable enough that those guys can hold things down.
And if this gets into the regular season, Dave, how hard do you think they'll ride Stoli this early in the season?
Well, I mean, with how things are spread out, like I know they've got one back-to-back coming in the early portion of the season, so obviously you're going to want to mix things up there. But I think you give them the reins and let them ride it. At least in the early portion, depending obviously how long Woll is going to be out for. We talk about this regularly as in the later part of the season, that those games early on are just as valuable as later on. So the games in October are still 2 points, just like the 2 points that are available in March and April. So providing they don't have to ride him too heavily, seeing how the schedule lines up, I think you go with him, you stick with him until Woll is ready to go, and then you go back to that little platoon scenario until the second half of the season before somebody ultimately just kind of handles things.
Speaking of Stolarz, we are 14 days away from puck drop. Anything new? To tell us on the development when it comes to the contract?
Short answer is no. I checked in on this morning. They're continuing to have ongoing discussions. It's going to be midterm, 3, 4, maybe 5 years on an extension, but the dollars are going to affect the term, or excuse me, the term is going to affect the ultimate dollars. So more years, it's a bit of a higher AAV. So they're going back and forth on that. They haven't, to my knowledge, narrowed things down in terms of, okay, if it's 3 years, it's this much. If it's 4 years, it's that much. They're still trying to work that magic in that sense. Obviously, the goal from Stolarz is to get something done by the start of the season. They've got still some time here and some runway. So they're going to continue going back and forth on this one. But as of this morning, as of an hour ago, still work to be done.
What about Easton Cowan? I mean, he's by all accounts been doing what he's supposed to do and impressing people, I guess you could say. Does that matter? Do you think they have their mind made up on what he's going to do for his development, or can he play his way onto this team? And if so, where would he fit?
I think they're going to certainly give him every opportunity. If he harnesses it, they'll let him start the season up with the big club and find the right spot for him. Now, they were trying him out with Dakota Joshua and Nick Waugh last week, and Berube said that he wants to have a skilled guy on with those two players, and they're going to give Cowan that opportunity. Now we'll see what happens. Is it going to end up being Domi? Is it Machelli? Is it we'll see kind of how things align. But I could see that being a placement for Cowan in the early going if he does, earn a spot on the roster, at least in the early going, at least to start the season. So I think they've got an idea as to how they want to develop the kid. But again, if he steps up even further and earns a spot right out of camp, it's kind of where I anticipate him playing in that type of a role, where you've got a skilled guy who can help set things up, and then have guys like Waugh and Joshua crash the net, bang the net, and try to get those doorstep greasy kind of goals that still count and still put your team ahead.
You're right, and I was saying earlier on, I think it doesn't work to the benefit of Cowan that he can go down to the American Hockey League without waivers. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's no secret. There's a billion forwards, NHL forwards in training camp. I'll put you on the spot. Do you anticipate at least one trade between now and opening night for the Maple Leafs?
I mean, I anticipated one or two just in the offseason, and we got nothing. So.
Yeah,
it's hard to. I do anticipate player movement. I do think that if they can't move some guys out and at least get assets for them, then they'll take their chances on the waiver wire. but a lot of teams are in a similar position. Toronto's got a lot of depth. They've got effectively 5 lines they can roll. So I do anticipate, that kind of happening. Yarncrook came into camp, and he was a discussion all summer. They tried trading him. They had discussions with other teams. Obviously, that didn't work out. So they're giving him a chance now to kind of re-earn that spot on that club. And he's at least impressed in the first week of camp. And we'll see kind of where that goes. Does he stick with the club? And if that's the case, does that shift the focus off of him and onto somebody else, like a David Camp? Is there more emphasis to try to move him? Nick Robertson, he looked good in camp last week. Can he keep that up? And how's that going to affect? Is that internal competition, which is always a good thing, going to ultimately result in one of these guys moving out? Toronto's got a decent enough, position, a good problem to have, so to speak, with all of these pieces. But a lot of teams are like that. And, you kind of want to wait as camp progresses to see which teams deal with injury. And if there are some pieces in a bottom 6 that are out of the lineup for some teams, then maybe that's where Toronto kind of pounces and at least gets some type of asset back for one of these guys.
Yeah, I was going to say everyone's waiting all summer for something to happen and nothing does happen. Do you think it's more likely or less likely as the season gets going here that Treliving can actually make a move?
Rosie, I know he's going to try. He's been trying for a while here, and I know it's not what everybody wants to hear, but I mean it takes 2 to kind of tango here. And I'm talking to some even on the agent side, some of the players that are looking to sign contracts right now that still haven't locked into extensions. Kyle Connor, Adrian Kempe, everyone's kind of waiting to see how the market is going to bear in that regard. I think it's similar on the trade front because so many teams have additional cap space, not only now, but going into next season and on. Everybody kind of wants to wait. It's almost wait and see mode. That's kind of what it was in the summer. Like there was no sense of urgency to try to make a move. Trees acknowledged, and he did it last Tuesday, talking to the media that, if I can get another top 6 guy, I'd like to do that. But you got to kind of see where things are at. I think because of the extra cap space, it gives teams more of an opportunity to make moves in the early going of the season than waiting until the second half or closer to trade deadline. That certainly seems, and talking to some teams around the league, it certainly opens up that opportunity, and clubs are willing to explore that, and Toronto is as well. It's just, again, it's a matter of finding the right deal, and a lot of these guys are master negotiators, so they try to outsmart each other and wait things out. We'll see if that factors in, or if some of these teams can address a hole or a need earlier on in the season. I think Toronto's certainly open to doing that.
Yeah, I was listening to an interview with a specific player last week, and he said it's a feeling. When he gets the feeling, he's gonna sign his new contract with his team. But I wanted to ask you about Jack Roslovic. Like, we need a live cam on this guy. What is he up to? He's not in training camp. He's waiting for a new contract. And B, are the Leafs still horny for Jack Roslovic?
I mean, I don't know how horny they were to begin with. I think he was an option.
Okay.
I don't think they were super hard or anything like that. Like, they were interested in the situation. If an opportunity arose, but clearly it hasn't yet. And he's waiting as well. Like, he's kind of just standing there. He's doing his off ice training himself, but he's kind of just waiting for that opportunity. He feels and his reps feel that, he's beyond right now the PTO route. We'll see kind of where things go. Maybe, I'm sure there's going to be some offers and some interest from overseas. So at least he'll have some type of options available to him. But in terms of the NHL, mid-6 caliber player, guy that can be interchanged up and down the lineup. Again, a lot of teams want to see where they're at before they pounce on a particular player. Personally, I don't see a fit in Toronto with the rest of the guys that they've got. Maybe they view it differently at the end of the day, or at the end of camp at least. But I'd be a little bit surprised if he ends up here, just again because of the depth and what they're trying to do right now with the lineup formations in the early going of camp.
Yeah, and someone they do have that's a new addition that's kind of piqued my interest is Matias Machelli. I think we know what he is capable of from some of the numbers he's put up in years past, but kind of fallen off recently. And by all accounts, didn't seem that happy in his place in the last couple of seasons. Where do you see him playing, and where do you see him fitting in? Is he a top line guy, or does he have to go and earn that?
Yeah, I think he's top six caliber. Last season was a little rough for him because just his usage, and he ended up making an early trade request that carried out throughout the season. Obviously, didn't happen until the summer, but they kind of dicked him around a little bit over there, and he didn't get the same opportunity he had the previous season where he was putting up better numbers. I think he's capable of being in that 50, 60 point range in the right environment. And I think the right environment for him is either first line or second line. He's versatile. He can play the right, he can play the left. So whether it's on the right side with Matthews and Knies or the left side with Tavares and Nylander, I think that's probably the best spot for him in terms of usage and output. He can keep up with pace of play. He's an energy type of player, and he's got some decent finish as well and can put up numbers. So I think that's probably the best spot for him. Now, if somebody else steps up and earns it more, then maybe he's the guy that slots into an Awa and Joshua line on the right side there for the third unit. But I think the idea when acquiring him was he was going to slot into one of those two spots on the first or second line. And I think that's probably where you're going to get the most max value out of him.
Shout out to Mike Batson in the chat who wanted us to ask you about Pittsburgh, what they're up to. Obviously, if you look at every team in the league, the only team that's steadfast on being like we're rebuilding, it's probably the Pittsburgh Penguins. Guys like Rakell and Rust, do you see a fit maybe in Toronto here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, both of those guys, either of those guys would fit well here, in this environment, especially based on how they performed last season. Rakell had a hell of a season last year and has a bit of a two-way style to him. Rust is a finisher. And if you're looking for that caliber player, you've got again two slots that you can put them on. Both of these guys can play either wing, which is also valuable and in and of itself. Plus, they also have term on their contract. This isn't just a scenario where it's only this year. Now, Russ used to have a no trade clause. That's gone, so he has no trade protection. He can go anywhere. Rakell's got a limited no trade. I forgot the amount of teams, might be 8 or 10, something like that. So maybe that's a stoppage in some fashion there. But I think from Toronto's perspective, I mean, either of those guys would fit well. And I think Toronto would love to get their hands on one of these two guys. It's pricey. Again, you're not dealing with a rental scenario. You're dealing with a guy with term, either of them. So the price is going to be that much higher. And Kyle Dubas and the staff in Pittsburgh are trying to maximize their returns for whoever they get. And they've got other pieces available, too, that they're willing to list on. We know about Erik Karlsson. Ryan Graves is out there. Nola Chari and some of the other guys that are on expiring deals. They'll listen on Tristan Jarry as well. So Pittsburgh's kind of all over the place, and they're the only team that's readily admitted that they're going into a rebuild. And it's time. But it's going to cost a significant price tag to get one of those two guys. And because of their lack of prospect pool and draft capital, if I'm Pittsburgh, my ask includes Easton Cowan, and I don't know if Toronto has an appetite to do that.
Fair enough. Screw those guys. Only guy I want at Pittsburgh wears 87. Just to circle back to Anthony Stolarz, what do you think the likelihood is that he signs a contract between now and the season opener here?
I mean, I think there's a good chance. I mean, he'd like it. It's just, again, it's a matter of coming down to the numbers. If it's a 3-year deal, then all right, let's harness in on what the value is. If it's 4 years, again, more term, a bit of a higher AAV, and then also structure. Like, how's the bonus going to look like? Is that going to be applicable? And so on and so forth. So once they hammer down, okay, this is the overall number and this is the term, figure out structure, get it done. They've got time until October 8th to finalize this. But again, it's both sides. It's a negotiation. So we'll see how they can come to common ground here.
All right, Dave, good stuff. We'll talk soon. Appreciate this.
You got it. Later, boys.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.